Alright guys, welcome to your 40th XHTML and CSS tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to begin to talk about the last main topic that I want to talk to you guys about concerning basic beginner web development, and that is the use of something called forms. So before, we pretty much made websites where basically we gave information to the user. We showed them pictures, we can write paragraphs, show them headers, make them click links. But what happens when we need to get information from the user? For example, maybe we were building a social networking site and we need the user to sign up with a username and password. Maybe we were building an auction site and we needed the user to give us information about their item, let them upload pictures. Well, in order to do all this, we need to do something called forms. Actually, I didn't say that right. We don't need to do forms. We need to utilize the use of forms. Now, a form is basically the way you input data to give to a website, and this includes typing in your username, uploading pictures, selecting items from a drop-down list, clicking radio buttons, checking options. All of that stuff is included in this special thing called forms. So this is more XHTML than CSS, but I wanted to save it for the very end because this is kind of the gray area between XHTML web development and web programming. So this is basically, I'm going to show you guys how to set up a form, but in order to, take that data and, store it in a database, or maybe calculate it and give them back a number or an answer, we need to add some computer programming in there, and we're not ready for that yet. So let's go ahead and first learn how to set up a basic form. So the form starts out with the tag form, and it ends with an ending tag form. Now all of your form elements, such as all your buttons, boxes, text areas, are going to go in here. So for example, let me introduce you guys to the most basic type of input, and that is just a plain text box. It's an area where the user can type just regular text. For example, if you want them to enter their email or pick a username, this is where you would do that. So for example, you might have something like put username, where the user can choose your username. So go ahead and write it so they know what the text box is for. And now, in order to give you that input, you need to type in the word input. This is a special tag that you're going to be seeing a lot more in the future. And now after this, you have to say what type of input is it. And I just want a plain old text input. I want a place where they can input text. And anyways, so we know that this is a spot where they can input text. But say we have a bunch of different places, or excuse me, a bunch of different inputs in our form. We need to tell our browser which one this is. So let's just go ahead and give it an ID, but instead of ID, we actually give it a name. So since this is the input for username, just go ahead and put username. And the reason, like let's say this, say you had one, say you're making a website where you need their mailing address. You would have one input for their name, one input for their road, one input for their country. So you would have three different inputs, and the way you differentiate them is through the name. So anyways, let's go ahead and save this, refresh it, and see what we got. Here is that username, just text username, and here is that input box. So now the user can go ahead and type in whatever they want. Let's see, D. Looks like that would be a good username, so I think I'll just use that. Genie. Actually, oh, I know why that's popping up, because this guy, he signed up on my forum, and he was trying to spam it, so I copied his name, and I had to ban him. So anyways, if you see this guy, tell him to quit spamming my forum, because it was annoying. So anyways, that is the very basics of a text input. But if you're saying, alright, I mean, that's pretty cool, but I just want a little more control over what it looks like. Well, by default, it gives you like, I don't know, however many spaces this is wide. If you want to change the size of this text input, what you need to do is you need to add another attribute called size. And whenever you fill this in, let's say you want to change it to like, I'll make it really noticeable, just put like 5 or something, and refresh this, your input is now 5, I don't know, what is it, characters or 5 pixels or whatever. It's just 5 long. I don't even know what the the measurement is, but anyways, that is how you change the size of it from anywhere from 5 to 50. It can be actually any size you want. There's 150 long. So that's pretty cool, but let me guys show you this. Even if you have a size of like 10 or something like that, you might be thinking, alright, I don't want the user to enter a username or something more than 10 characters long, so I just put size of 10 and that'll work. But check it out. They can still enter a username however long they want. So the size just pretty much changes the view of it or how it looks. If you want to actually limit the amount of characters they can put in, then you need another attribute called max length, and you can set this equal to, let's just set equal to 5 or something. And now once we go ahead and let's get rid of the size attribute because we don't need that anymore. And now once we go ahead and save this and refresh, check it out. The size is default, but the user can only enter 5 characters since, look, do you hear me typing on the keyboard? See, I'm typing right now, but it won't let me enter any more characters. See, 5 at most. So anyways, size is for how it looks, max length is for how many characters do you want them to enter. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is another attribute in the last attribute called value. If you want to populate this box with something by default, you need to throw in a value. So for example, if you go ahead and refresh this right now, by default your box is going to be empty, and that's because by default your value is empty. If you want something like enter name here and save it, by default whenever they load the page, this is going to pop up right there, enter name here. So you can, if you want to give them a description of what they're supposed to do on that text box, I usually put something to the left hand side, and that's usually good enough. But you can also put something in the middle, or maybe this will be more useful if you're like, let's say if you're making a website to, like New York's bands to sign up or something, and by default you say choose your state and it says New York in there by default because most of your users are going to be from New York. It saves them a little trouble, but still I like to leave it blank, let them fill in their own data. But anyways, that is how you use the basics of a form and also a text input. In the next couple tutorials I'm going to be teaching you guys about different kinds of input because there's a lot to go over in forms. But stick with me guys, we're almost done learning the basics of web design. So I'm excited and you guys should be too. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you guys next video.